Hi guys, welcome back to What Fuels a Dancer. My name is Leah and I am a professional ballet dancer and a certified nutrition health coach. In today's video, we aren't really going to be talking about nutrition, but we are going to be talking about injuries and what it's like to experience them, whether you are training or you are a professional dancer. I think it's really important to talk about because every single dancer, or almost every single dancer, myself included, whether you are a dance student or a professional dancer, has experienced some sort of ache and pain throughout your training or career, or have even experienced a more serious injury that has kept you from dancing and performing. In future videos, I want to explore why injuries can happen and how we can walk through them so that we can come out on the other side of them physically, mentally, and emotionally stronger. But in this video, I want to talk about my own personal experience with the injuries that I have had. And trust me, there's quite a few. I want dancers to know that even if you feel alone when you're injured, there's so many other people who have experienced the loneliness that comes from having to sit outside of the studio and watch your peers do what you want to be doing. And I also hope that this video can be a support and encourage you on your journey to heal. So with all that being said, make sure you have a comfortable seat and maybe a beverage of choice and keep watching. I just want to put out the disclaimer that this is my own personal experience with injuries. If you are currently experiencing an injury or any other aches and pains, it is always best to talk to your doctor or physical therapist about the path that is right for you. I have had quite a few major injuries, and I would argue that it's probably a little bit more than most. I won't go into all of the factors that I think contributed to my injuries in this video, but in hindsight, I can see that some of my natural flexibility and my degree of turnout definitely could have contributed to the injuries that I had. I have definitely danced through aches and pains like a strained calf, throwing my back out, having bruised ribs, etc. But today I'm going to be talking about the 3 different types of injuries that I've had that have kept me from being able to be inside of the studio for an extended period of time. So my first injuries started happening when I was in middle school. I have very tall jeans, and so I am actually pretty tall. And so this was a time when I was growing quite a bit, and I was experiencing multiple stress fractures in my metatarsals and my feet. I was around 13 or 14, and these fractures were located along the growth plates in those joints. And one big factor was that the point shoes that I was wearing weren't the best fit for my foot. I experienced one at the beginning of the summer during my own studio summer intensive, and it was progressively getting worse and harder to deal with. And I was supposed to be leaving for New York City for the School of American Ballet's summer intensive just a week or 2 later. And I was so incredibly excited. This was one of my first big summer intensives that I was going to be attending. I had never been to New York City before, and so obviously I was already packed and ready to go. But when I went to the doctor and I had an MRI done, they told me that I had a stress fracture and we had to make the decision that I wasn't going to be able to go. And obviously I was devastated. And this was obviously really hard news to swallow. I was really sad and disappointed. And this was the first time an injury really gave me a punch in the gut. I'm grateful looking back now that my parents and my doctors had the foresight to make sure that I stayed healthy that summer and that I stayed home and really recovered and fully healed my foot before something even more severe happened. And I also had the support of friends and family, and I had an amazing Pilates teacher that helped me to make sure that I stayed strong during that time off. I remember going back to the studio and feeling so much stronger than I had ever before, and it really made me determined to continue to be the best that I could be and look forward to auditioning for summer intensives the following year. And then next are my knee dislocations. Yes, there are multiple. I've had 3. I was 13, 17, and 20 when they happened, and they were all fluke things of me slipping or just over rotating, and then it happened. And I have dealt with a lot of pain in my life in terms of like physical pain through ballet, but when that happens, it is the most excruciating pain I have ever experienced in my life. And each time it happened, it took me longer and longer to come back and heal. And it took me years to get over the apprehension that came with doing certain steps, especially like en dedans turns, jumps, especially like grand jeté and saut de basque and tour jeté. All of those were very anxiety provoking for me for the longest time. The second time that this happened, I was a senior in high school, and it was in the fall around September or October. And this was a really big year for me. Nutcracker was always special for me. I absolutely loved doing it, and this was going to be a really big year for me. I was studying to do Snow Queen and several of my other favorite roles like Arabian, and then I was also working on the Sugar Plum Fairy variation to perform at school shows. But unfortunately, while I was rehearsing, my knee dislocated, and I was able to still do some parts of Nutcracker, which I'm really glad that I was still able to do, but it definitely was disheartening that I felt like my body was holding me back. Like these parts that I really wanted to do, my knee just like couldn't handle it and come back in time in order to do them. So that was another disappointing time for me. And obviously this is right before auditions for summer course for the last year, as well as for trainee and apprentice programs. So that January and February were definitely pretty difficult. I was still trying to recover and make sure that my knee felt okay. And this was when I really noticed that my confidence in my dancing started to dip. I was really fortunate to be a part of a great, amazing school growing up that did a really great job at teaching us ballet. And I was very fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of amazing dancers, and we all got to work together, and I got to attend a lot of summer courses. And so I really felt at the top of my game when I was a senior before that knee injury happened. And that injury really took a blow to my confidence. And I remember auditioning and just not feeling myself and not feeling like I was able to dance like how I knew I could. But that summer I was able to go to P&B to their summer course and was lucky enough to be invited to stay for the fall as a PD in their professional division. And I really struggled with my confidence my first year there, especially my first year there, as well as I struggled with anxiety and some other health issues that I won't go into. And because of all those things that I was experiencing, I really started to control what I ate. And I'm not going to go too much into that now. I can definitely make a video on my experience with body image and nutrition that I have gone through. But I also think that that played a factor in how I felt and my strength inside of the studio. My second year as a PD, I started to gain more confidence, And, but unfortunately in October, I started noticing a pain in my right hip. And because it wasn't something that happened all of a sudden, I just kind of ignored it and was like, maybe it's just some overuse and it'll be better once Nutcracker passes. And then it was the second weekend of Nutcracker, I want to say, so beginning of December, it was getting to the point where I was in pain, whether I was laying down, whether I was walking around. I had trouble even getting out of bed in the morning, much less turning out and lifting my leg. And it got to the point where one warm-up class before a performance, I just broke down and I was like, I can't handle this pain anymore. And I have a pretty high pain tolerance, so I knew something was wrong when I got to that point. And as it turns out, I was able to fly home because I wasn't able to finish Nutcracker, and I had an MRI done and some injections done, and it turns out that I had a labral tear. Well, and not really a labral tear, but actually the cartilage in my joint was frayed. So think of kind of like a shag carpet, which is obviously not ideal by any means. And unfortunately, my hip flexor was also getting injured by that injury in the process. So we really spent about 6 months trying to see if we could rehab my hip and I would be able to continue dancing without surgery. But unfortunately, I tried going back to dance several times, and within a few days or a few hours, I was right back to the pain that I had initially started experiencing. So we made the decision to get hip surgery, and honestly, that was one of the best decisions ever. Like, yes, it was so scary to go through hip surgery and not know if I was going to be able to come out on the other side and be able to dance again. But then again, as it was, I was in so much pain that I wouldn't have been able to dance anyway and actually enjoy it. I remember when I got out of surgery, the first thing that I thought was, oh my gosh, that pain is gone. And that was, so before I had surgery, I was really struggling with my mental health. I had put so much of my identity into being a dancer that I didn't know who I was if I wasn't dancing. And so I really had to grapple with what other passions and interests do I have in my life? And who am I outside of being a dancer? And that was the first moment when I didn't feel that pain anymore, that I really felt like not only did I have a chance of coming back and dancing again, but I felt more free. Like, it felt like this weight was just lifted off of my shoulders. And yes, it was a long and hard road to get back to dancing. The first 3 or 4 weeks, I couldn't even put weight, all of my weight on my leg. I had to sleep in a certain position. I had to lay down in a certain position. And I definitely remember the first class that I tried to take back, and ballet just felt so foreign, I'll just say that. But I was able to come back, and I was able to recover and get stronger because of it. And that is, to this day, something that I am extremely proud of. And honestly, it changed my confidence, because I had to realize that I had to be confident in my ability and who I was as a dancer. And I had to believe in myself, and I couldn't rely on the opinions of other people to determine how good of a dancer I was. So I was able to come back as a third year as a PD, which typically doesn't happen, but I am extremely grateful for, because it gave me an extra year to train and then audition at the end of that to see if I could get a job. And thankfully, I was able to do quite a few auditions, but unfortunately that March, I dislocated my knee again. And that was heartbreaking. That was 9 months or something after I had had hip surgery. So it really, at that point, just felt like I couldn't get a break. And again, I was in this place where I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to dance again. And It took several months for me to get back to a place where I could go into the studio again. And I was fortunate enough to be able to perform a little bit at the end of that year. And I was also fortunate enough to know that I had an apprenticeship with Grand Rapids Ballet when I healed and was able to come back to dancing fully. So that summer, I was still in quite a bit of pain, but I had amazing doctors and amazing physical therapists that helped to not only heal my knee, but make me feel really strong and strengthen those areas of my legs that really need to strengthen in order to keep this injury from happening again. So that was back in 2014, and all of those injuries happened before I started dancing professionally. Since then, I haven't experienced any major injury, which I am so grateful for. And I think a lot of that has to do with learning how to take care of my body, making sure that I take breaks, and also making sure that I am strong in different areas. For me personally, cross-training has been huge for my success as a dancer, not only just in terms of my strength, but it's improved my technique as well. And every dancer is different, but that's just my experience. So my knee is definitely something that I still have to deal with. The first time I dislocated it, it was 13 years ago, and it's been 6 years since it last happened, yet I still have to deal with aches and pains of it daily and babying it and taking care of it and things like that. When I was dancing this past December in Nutcracker, I slipped down a flight of stairs on my way to class because ice and melted snow plus slippery stairs equals me falling, of course. And thankfully, my knee felt totally fine, but unfortunately, it dislodged some little bone chips that had previously been broken off from my previous knee injuries. And while I saw a physical therapist while I was there to make sure that everything was okay if I continued to dance, and they gave me the go-ahead. The rest of the structure of my knee was great. All my tendons and all my ligaments were great and strong, which was really good to hear. But it would be uncomfortable for sure. And it definitely was not something that was fun to be dealing with while dancing, but I wanted to obviously finish Nutcracker. And so when I got home, I got an x-ray done, and they did confirm that there were multiple little pieces kind of like floating around my knee. And so we wanted to give it a few months to see if they would kind of do what they did before and kind of settle into a place that wasn't going to bother me. But unfortunately, they've moved into my knee joint and are near my ACL. And so what that has been causing is for my knee to give out and feel very unstable. And then occasionally I will get sharpshooting pain up and down my leg, which is not a great feeling. So I haven't been able to dance as normal or even stay as active as I normally would because of this pain in my knee. And so probably the whole time you've been watching this video, you've thought it's pretty random and out of context to the rest of my videos. I definitely had a few other videos planned for this week and next week and the following, but I kind of had to shift them around to get this one out because I will actually be getting knee surgery in a few days on Friday. And I'm super lucky because it's a pretty minor surgery. They just have to go in orthoscopically and remove those pieces. They don't have to do any damage repair because the rest of my knee looks great. The MRI that I had done showed that all of my tendons, ligaments, muscles, bones, cartilage, they were all doing great, which is honestly such a blessing to hear, especially after injuring it so many times. And I have an amazing doctor and team of individuals who I know will be there to support me physically and mentally and emotionally throughout this time. And overall, I should be able to go back to pre-surgery and pre-fall state in about 2 to 3 months after I have surgery. But even though I know I have this great mindset right now, and I'm actually really excited to get this done because I'm excited to think about the after, the not having to have to deal with this injury after. I know that there will be times over the next few months that will be difficult and frustrating, and there will be that day when I first go back into the studio and try and turn out, and it will definitely not be there, and I won't be able to do more than a few plies and tendus. And I know I will definitely feel overwhelmed that I feel so far away from how I know I can dance. And so I just wanted to put this video out there to just encourage other dancers who are in that same position. It is really difficult to start from square one. Being a dancer is an amazing gift, but that doesn't mean that it's easy or that there aren't roadblocks that we have to overcome. So I want to share what I'm going through and experiencing in hopes that it might help some of you guys who are experiencing something similar. So if you guys want to follow along on my journey, be sure to subscribe down below and give this video a thumbs up and comment down below if there's anything that you want to see from this series. Also, be sure to be following me on Facebook and Instagram at What Fuels a Dancer, and hopefully I will be updating you guys a little bit more day to day on what I'm going through on there. And I will see you guys all next Wednesday in a new video, which actually was filmed way before this video, but I had planned ahead of time. Anyway, you get the gist. I will talk to you guys all very soon. Bye, guys.